A lot of crypto investors are saying that more pain is coming, that we're going into a bear market. Let's talk about that, along with the big news that's happening this week that could change the market completely. There's actually some massive economic news that will change up the landscape of what we're seeing right now. We also have a very important thing happening, not this coming week, but the week after. And I want to tell you about an investment that I'm making that I think is just a no-brainer to buy right now. Stock that I think is at an incredible valuation. Actually, I'm closing up the cottage right now, and I was coming up here, just me, Bitcoin baby and wife are at home, but I was talking to ChatGPT the entire time on the way up here, trying to think about what I'm missing right now with this stock, because it seems like a steal. I've been buying it, I don't want to say hand over fist, but I've been buying it very heavily now. I already have a lot of exposure to it, but just one small portion of their business, I think, could be worth 2 times what the business is worth today, the entire business. So I want to go through that. I'll give you some of my numbers and my thinking behind this. If you don't mind, though, before we start, hit subscribe so you can see future videos, because sometimes YouTube will continue to push videos your way if you watch my videos, but sometimes you miss one or two. So you don't want to miss anything, especially coming up into a very important part of the year with crypto. And also check out BYDeFi underneath the video. I think now's a great time to be trading crypto because we're right around support. We've already seen a big pullback, and that's actually my favorite time to trade cryptos in general. I love when we see 20% pullbacks, which we're at right now. We're very close to some previous support levels, and you might feel bullish after this video. Let's get started. So James Nguyen, the supposed massive leverage trader that made money earlier this year, that just seems like he's been losing money left and right. He's been saying that the market is turning bearish, that we're going to fall down to $90,000, that the bear market is coming. And I see a lot of other people kind of echoing a similar sentiment. People are very bearish on the market, and it seems like sentiment closely moves with price, right? So if we're down, even if there's really no bearish news, people are bearish in general. If we're up and there's no good news, people are still excited, right? So it's kind of interesting that that's the case. People are trying to figure out if they should rotate to gold when gold's gone up 100% in 15 months, and Bitcoin's actually like that, maybe just slightly up on the year. It's interesting that people are turning away from this asset that's historically done incredibly well, Bitcoin, and they're moving to something that typically moves up with inflation, but they're doing this after we've already seen a big pullback on gold, or a big pullback on Bitcoin, and we've already seen gold run. So I think a lot of retail investors will get caught on the wrong side of the trade. With that being said, we could go into a bear market, right? I don't think that's the case. I think Bitcoin's honestly going to do really well. We have CPI coming out this week, and we just saw Jerome Powell speaking very dovishly, saying that, it looks like they're going to continue lowering rates, that they're going to stop quantitative tightening. He most likely knows the CPI data. It's coming out this week, though. It's gotten pushed back because of the government shutdown. But I've got to think that CPI is going to come in line, or maybe even a little bit low, if Jerome Powell is speaking this dovishly, right? So I think inflation could come in lower than expected. Everyone gets caught offside. We have the Fed decision the week after this week. And we could see a lot of people get wrecked. Like a lot of people be forced out of the market. Don't be surprised if there's some manipulation before that, right? Like to send people really bearish. Maybe market manipulators push down the price even further, get a lot of people to sell, get people liquidated, and then we come back up. I'm just thinking like psychologically, what causes the most pain? It would be a lot of retail investors getting psyched out when everything else is hitting all-time highs. So it's just stupid to get out of Bitcoin, except for the fact that, historically we've seen a top around this time of the cycle, this time of the year, get a lot of people to leave and then send us higher. So that will be very interesting to see CPI come in later this week. Now, I have been buying a stock that, I know a lot of people are starting to get sad about crypto or have lost money in crypto. I talk about diversification on this channel. I talk about crypto in videos a lot, but I also have said probably 1,000 times now that I have money in equities and money in real estate, and I have cash on the sidelines as well, because I want to be diversified. Now, one of the stocks that I've been buying that I think is actually a really good value, even now, is Amazon. it sounds boring, right? Everyone's heard about Amazon. Everyone has looked at Amazon. Everyone knows what Amazon does for the most part. But I was just thinking through it today with with ChatGPT on the way up here. And I don't know if there's something I'm missing. I think Amazon is a steal at today's prices. So it's around a $2.2 trillion market cap, around $212 or something. It's underperformed a lot of the other big tech names. And a large part of that is AWS slowing down growth a bit, right? Their cloud services. But there's a good reason to think that that's going to re-accelerate, kind of like Facebook re-accelerated growth back in 2022. Amazon's not getting hit as bad as Facebook was or Meta was back then. So it's not like it's at an 80% discount compared to Meta. But there's good reason to think that with Anthropic committing to, growing their cloud, that Amazon could re-accelerate growth, especially with AI just in general. There's going to be so much data, so much information that's going to need to be stored. The estimates right now are that the total cloud market is worth about $400 billion a year in revenue, and that in 2030 it's going to be worth $1.9 trillion. So basically a 5x. AWS owns somewhere around 30% of the market share right now. Let's say that goes down to 20%. Let's say, they continue to lose market share. But 20% of, let's call it $2 trillion, that's a $400 billion a year business. Right now it's 125 billion. It almost sounds crazy because that is incredible growth. I think that's around a 20% compounded annual growth rate. Right now they're at 17%. So this would assume that they re-accelerate growth a little bit and keep steady for 4 or 5 years. But right now their margins are 30%. I realize I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you. I'll tell you what this means for the price in a second of the stock. But right now their margins are somewhere around 30%. Let's say they go up to 40%. 40% on a $400 billion a year business. That's $160 billion in profits. That's more than Amazon has right now across all business lines. Just valuing the cloud business at a 20 PE, that puts them at $3.2 trillion, $1 trillion more than they're worth right now. Now, to be clear, I was doing a lot of these numbers with ChatGPT, so I pushed back a lot to make sure that they were correct, but they could be slightly off because sometimes ChatGPT is slightly off based on old numbers. But that's basically 50% growth over 5 years. If every other part of their business dies, which I don't think is going to be the case, I think one of the major tailwinds for Amazon is the fact that their retail business could become much more efficient, much more profitable because of automation and because of AI. They could fire part of their workforce, which could grow their margins a lot, or they could keep on expanding and then they just buy more robots, more automation, so that they don't have to continue hiring at their current pace. So even just a small increase in profitability or margins is huge on one of the biggest revenue generators in the world, which is Amazon retail. Then their advertising is still growing, their memberships are still growing. They have other bets too that are going to do well long term, in my opinion, or just they're like a call option. But just AWS, I think, could be worth a massive amount of money, right? Running back the discounted cash flows at even 7% for the next for the next 5 years. This is a very attractive business, and I don't think these are crazy assumptions. Even if you assume that they're going to grow less, I still think we're going to see massive profitability out of Amazon in the future. So I just go back and I think, why wouldn't I buy this company? I mean, I asked ChatGPT, what are some of the reasons that maybe hedge funds or big money isn't buying more of this company? And it threw back that, maybe I'm assuming too much growth, but this is still well below what other companies are generating in growth. This is also, this is assuming that their market share goes down. This is assuming that they're only at 40% margins when their business is 3x. I think that's relatively conservative too, that they go from 30% profit margin to 40. So Another thing that said was maybe there's a problem, they get called out for being a monopoly. But at the same time, they have to fight off Walmart, they have to fight off Costco on the retail front. On the subscription front, they have to fight off Netflix, YouTube. Like, it's not like Prime is the number one streaming app. On for AWS, I don't think anyone could say that's a monopoly if it's losing market share. And just right now, even, there are other cloud providers that are growing faster. So I'm just sitting here thinking, how could anyone claim that it's a monopoly? I think that kind of is, but I think they would have good reason to push back on all that. So, yeah, I don't think that the valuation is stretched right now either. I'm talking about the valuation of AWS, a highly profitable, quickly growing business in 5 years still, being just a 20 PE. Right, I just added a 20 PE to it, but right now the entire business is a 30 PE. So I'm talking about margin, or I'm talking about PE compression as well. I think this is a steal deal. If you were wanting to buy something that's diversified, that has exposure to AI, that's not a pure play on AI though, but has massive levers of profitability that they can pull if they want to stop growing, or they can continue to reinvest in the business. Just because it's a multi-trillion-dollar company, I don't think it's overvalued. I think it still has a lot of room to grow. And I've been buying it, to be clear. Whenever we see a dip or we see the market jump and Amazon's left behind, I've been buying. It is my largest holding right now. That and Google are my two largest holdings outside of indices and some crypto holdings. But as far as individual stocks go, and I look at it and I want to throw more money towards it. I think 5 years from now, I will not be unhappy. Of course, there is some risk, right? But I think generally there's less risk in something like Amazon stock versus Bitcoin or crypto in general. Not to say that it's a better risk reward necessarily, but I think there's probably less volatility and less risk that it completely goes away in 5 years. Hey, I think Amazon, I'd have a hard time not believing that Amazon's slightly less risky than crypto. With that in mind, I still think Bitcoin will do really well. So I'm still allocated. I have more in Bitcoin ETFs than I do in any individual stock. But yeah, I feel like I want to continue putting money towards Amazon while it lags behind. But let me know your thoughts on this underneath the video. Let me know what you think about that. I know Amazon's not the sexiest stock in people's minds, but just like Google saw, a 70% jump, I think Amazon will see something like that at some point in the near future and could catch people offsides. I'm willing to bet on it. Let me know your thoughts. Again, if you want to trade crypto, this could be a pivotal week for crypto. Get ready for some volatility. Check out the link underneath the video to BYDeFi. You can also check BTCC, Blowfin, BitUnex, Weeks. I use multiple platforms, and I think you should too if you're trading. Apologize for this angle and maybe the sound. Hopefully it's okay. We'll get back to the office. I'll see you soon. Bye.